astonishingly, is the latest media communication from Labour trying to convince you that they are all over this. They got everything sorted. They know what they're doing. Now, I know when I say who hates potholes, it's like, well, that can't be. That can't be what the British government is leading on, but it absolutely is. And I'm going to share that with you in just a minute. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about their approach because their approach to sharing their apparent goals and successes in potholes is a really good example of the way that Labour has been trying to deal with everything for the last 18 months. So I really don't know who it is that's advising Labour. I don't know who's running it. I don't know. I really don't know who's in charge of their media or their communications, but they are making such obscure choices at the moment. I was scrolling this morning and this just popped up. It's from Labour, right? So it's a Labour post. And it leads with, in fact, I'm going to show this in just a second. It leads with this question: who else hates potholes? And then it goes into a bit of a summary of how well they're doing and the kind of successes they're having. And it just struck me the moment I read it. It was a brilliant encapsulation of everything wrong with the Labour Party today. So let me show you this post. And this is genuine post. This is absolutely what came across my timeline this morning. This is, to my money, to my mind, absolutely what are you playing at? So who hates potholes, right? Or who else hates potholes? That's their leader. Now, I'm going to point this out because this needs to be addressed. Labour's big sneaky lead here is who else hates potholes. Who in their right mind is reading that going, oh no, I like a pothole. I like a pothole. A pothole's a good thing. Just before I continue reading some of the rest of that comment there, you are watching the Well France. This is one of my Well France specials. I'm Graham, and I try and do these every Tuesday at 7:30 in the evening. But I do occasionally do what I call Well France specials, and that's when something occurs to me, where there's something in the news. When at the moment, of course, Labour is the gift that keeps on giving in terms of my channel, where I look at satire and comment. Although, of course, that is a political subject, my work isn't necessarily about the politics of it. It's about the business perspective or the communication perspective of it, which is what I do. So let's get into the rest of this. And if you're enjoying this live as we go, feel free to make your support for the channel known. So who else hates potholes? Well, I mean, obviously, but just look at this, right? Who else hates potholes? Now that infers that they are including themselves, but then they say we do. So who else hates them? We do. Well, you've already established that in the question. And then look at this. This is astonishing. That's why Labour's introducing new red, amber and green ratings so the public know what action's being taken in your local area. And then we get into the advert with record investment by Labour. We're saving drivers money by preventing costly repairs and restoring pride in communities. Now, hate to point this out to you if you're a Labour supporter, or maybe I do want to point it out to you if you're a Labour supporter, but you're not actually saving money. What you're doing is repairing stuff that should have been repaired many, many times previously. We all know this. But what astonishing me, this bit here is Labour's new red, amber and green ratings. So the public knows what's going on. What? I honestly, I want to go up to whoever it is that puts this sort of dross out and says, what are you doing? This is what politics now looks like. So instead of fixing problems, because believe me, right, if all the potholes around you started disappearing over the next 2-3 months, you would notice it, wouldn't you? You'd start thinking, oh, this is all right. And the reason you'd notice it is because these days they don't just fix something and get on with it. They put barriers around it and traffic lights around it about a week before anything happens. Then a bunch of blokes turn up and sit in a van for a day or two. And then one of them does some digging whilst the others watch, whilst no one's still sat in his van looking at his phone. And then eventually when they finish 3-4 days later, and then the stuff's left for another 3 days, off they toodle. So Labour, you don't need to give us a red, amber, green rating. We don't need rag ratings for potholes. You just need to fix them. which is kind of what I'm talking about, right? Although this is about potholes, it's really about Labour's approach generally, because politics now appears to become labelling it and talking about a dashboard and a spreadsheet rather than fixing the problems, renaming them, relabeling them. And they're hoping that this presentation carries instead of delivery. Now, who else hates potholes is insanity. Nobody is going to go, I like potholes. So this is not insight. This is a focus group headline. So here's what's really going on, folks. If you've just joined my Wealth Rant live this evening on a Sunday at 8:06, welcome here. Feel free, if you're on Facebook, to share some stars. They cost you less than 1 penny each. And on YouTube, feel free, subscribe. That would be a great thing to do. I need to know that you're enjoying these lives. So their solution is not fewer potholes. Their solution is not fixing potholes. Their solution is a red, amber, and green rating. And this is so indicative of Labour. They haven't fixed anything. They've got a new pattern, right? The new pattern is this. We're going to announce a system. We're going to create a framework. There's going to be an initiative. But the outcomes, well, they're completely unclear. So we've got a red, amber, green rating, which Labour says is going to help us know the situation with these potholes. I can tell you now, every single person on this live right now, anybody who watches any of these clips the next days or weeks, you don't want a red, amber, green rating. You just want your potholes fixed. That's it. It's a small, miney little fix that would make everyone's lives better. It won't install pride, by the way, in the area, Labour. What it will do is mean that we can drive around without getting bones shuddered, broken, all this sort of nonsense. Record investment by Labour, but where we're saving drivers money by preventing costly mistake. Yes, that's what you're doing, Labour. You keep telling yourselves that. So let's rewind 18 months. Because before the election, Labour were very clear, weren't they? They were going to not put tax rises on for working people. You remember they were going to smash the gangs? Remember that one? Haven't said that for a while, have they? They were going to grow the economy. They were going to go further and faster in growing the economy. They were all about stability, honesty, and grown-up governments. And let's be clear, these are not vague hints. These are repeated lines. This matters because leadership, whoever you support, is about expectation and delivery. So if you say, as the incoming leader, no tax rises, smash the gangs, grow the economy. If you state your government is stability, honesty, and grown up, and then 18 months later, there's no sign of any smashed gangs. There are endless tax rises. The economy is in a nosedive, partly because of all those tax rises. And as for stability, honesty, and grown-up government, we've got more U-turns than any government I can think of for some time. That's where we actually are. And what they've actually now done is try to completely reset the scoreboard after kickoff. You told us it was those things, but now it's apparently about potholes. So where are we right now? Taxes are higher. Taxes are heading higher. They're continuing to climb. Our economic growth remains flat at best. Some people would argue we are going down. Illegal crossings are continuing, spiking, in fact. Public services remain money pumped into them, very little output. So we can talk about the debate, well, we can debate the causes, but we are not able to deny the outcomes. There's no obvious step change. There's no obvious, it's working. What else are we getting in the first 18 months of this Labour government? U-turns and reversals. And these give a credibility erosion. So this is another pattern that you're seeing from Starmer's government. A very strong statement, public reassurance, and then a reversal. And then policies are adjusted, and then timelines shift, and then definitions are changed. And each U-turn chips away at trust. And that's not because plans never change. but because the confidence was oversold at the start. Now, just to remind you, I'm talking about potholes and Labour government's ridiculous social media campaign. Who else hates potholes? We do. And their announcement of a red, amber, green rating so everybody knows where they are with potholes. And my position is this: you don't need all of that. What that is a series of expenses to create something that doesn't need to be created. We don't want a red, amber, green rating. What we want is you to fix the potholes. That's it, simple. And you can apply that to every single thing else I've just been talking about. They stated repeatedly no tax rises, and then there were tax rises. They stated repeatedly smash the gangs. Oh, we can't do it. It's too complicated and difficult. They stated what I've just been talking about there. Farmers will be paying more inheritance tax. Farmers, it's fair, it's the right thing to do. Until suddenly it wasn't. Until suddenly, oh no, it'll be okay actually. And so they've done the old folks heating top up. Definitely we're going to do it. Definitely we're going to, oh no, we're not. Oh, we are going to cut the cost of welfare. Oh no, we're not. Consistently, they've done this repeatedly over and over and over. So this has become their approach, right? This is what Labour has done for the last 18 months. They are increasingly saying, we've got a big approach that we're going to do, and it's going to cost some money. So we are going to take some more money through tax. Here is our scheme. This is the way that our scheme is going to help you. This example is red, amber, green. And then we're going to give some of it back to you and tell you that's a success. I mean, even saying it out loud, whether or not you feel you understand politics, whether or not you are a supporter or not of Labour, whether or not you believe economics are complicated. When I say it to you like that, it's ridiculous, isn't it? They take more money through tax. They announce a scheme to spend that tax money on, then they give some of it back and claim success. They drive up taxes. They tell you that children can have free breakfasts and free lunches, when everyone knows that money is coming from the increased tax. There's no free lunches, no such thing. And if you take 100 billion, no, let's take us right. Here's another one. Labour is going to give 200 million to councils to provide housing for new arrivals to the country, and councils have to bid for a slice of that 200 million. So collecting that 200 million costs money, because you have to assess what taxes to levy against people. You have to collect it, you have to chase non-payers, you have to come to agreements with people that can't pay, you have to gather that money in, you have to assess it. And then there's a whole process where councils have to say, we will have this, we will spend this, and eventually some of that money is portioned back out. So that 200 million, what do you reckon it actually costs? Well, conservative figures would suggest it costs 20p in every pound. In other words, to give councils 200 million to build property or to allocate property to new arrivals costs 240 million to give out 200 million. So apply that to everything Labour is doing. Why do we have to have the big announcement, the big dress, or the big red, amber, green system for potholes? We don't. All we actually want is them to fix the problem. So none of this is efficient government. This is recycling, and it is expensive. Schemes cost money to design, to administer, to monitor, and to brand, and every layer absorbs cash before it reaches the public. Now, I don't know what it costs them to put out a social media about potholing. I don't know what it costs them to create a red, amber, green system. I don't know what all of that costs. But to be honest, even if it costs £1 million, which in government terms is nothing, right? It's a rounding error, as they are very keen on saying. That's £1 million spent just to communicate we're going to fix potholes. It's the perfect example, because fixing potholes, I've never fixed a pothole, but I'm confident saying this, it isn't complicated. What do you need? You do need some money for the stuff. You need some crews who know what they're doing, and you need accountability, something that has been in short supply for a long time. Money, crews, and accountability. That's it. That's what you need. Do you need a color coded dashboard? I'm going to say no. Do you need a communications campaign? Again, I'm going to say no. Do you need a national announcement? No. And if roads were done and completed and kept in good order, none of it would be needed. See, all of this comes back to everything that this government, and by the way, it's developed on previous governments, but this government is excelling at doing this very, very badly. This isn't really about potholes. It's about leadership behavior. It's about leaders prioritizing optics over outcomes. They want it to look good more than the thing they're actually claiming they want to make look good. If they just did it, everyone would notice and it would be amazing. But they want to talk about it. They are endlessly spending time and money and resource developing systems rather than solutions. There is a degree of the messaging rather than the mechanics. And all of this, delivery is suffering. I'm pretty sure no one in this live right now, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Nobody in this live right now is thinking, well, I want updates about all these bits and pieces. What I actually want is results. But we've seen this throughout, ever since, certainly the last 18 months. Now, did we see this in the previous Conservative government? Well, the previous Conservative government was a nightmare. It was phenomenally bad. I think we can all agree with that. But what's fascinating is I remember when St. Jeremy of Corbyn was at risk of getting into government, I remember lots of people saying, why don't you want Corbyn in? Surely he can't be worse than Boris at the time. And I remember saying to people, well, actually he can. He can be worse than Boris. And then they would say, well, what is it that Boris has done that's good? And I'd say, well, nothing. It's been a disaster. Boris Johnson was a travesty of an MP. He was appalling. He treated the office of Prime Minister with such contempt. Dreadful, dreadful. I remember a lot of people who you might identify as Tory blue. I remember a lot of people thinking, well, this is good. Now we've got this guy in. He can stop the clowning about. He's got the role. Brilliant. He's going to bring some change. And he was just as much a blithering, incompetent idiot in role as he was out of role. It was incredible. But I remember at the time people saying, well, Corbyn can't be as bad as that. Now, we'll never know how bad Corbyn would have been, but he would have been a disaster. The guy couldn't decide anything. The guy had absolutely a tiny following among a certain type of person. And it's those people now that are trying to overtake Starmer's very badly run bunch of ministers. I think Starmer's made an absolute disaster of things. I think he and Rayner, of course, now tipped to come back as deputy. If Burnham gets in, that was the price of her support for him. Rachel, I don't think I've heard anyone say a good word about Rachel ever since she has been in role. We have had a succession of appallingly bad choices from very ill-prepared ministers throughout. So I'm going to bring this live towards a close. I will take questions, comments, and observations. But just on this final idea, because the whole point that I brought this up was this whole thing. It's over-architecting. It's overbuilding something that isn't really necessary. You don't need a red, amber, green, as I've just been saying. What you need is a fix. You need it solved. You need it problem over. That's all pretty much most people want. Just get on with it and just get it done. And if you can do that, then great, in a much, much better place. Before I take questions, comments, observations. And before I bring this live to a close, I'm also going to share this with you, because if you like my work, if you like the way I work, if you like my content and my output, you can find all of my socials from the profile on the platform you're watching right now. And you also see a button there. I've actually just changed that button. I think it says Start Your Wealth Reset here. And that is a 5-day program. It is free. You don't have to put your credit card number in. There's no charge or delayed charge for it. It's literally 5 days of very simple actions to make more money, save more money, and get more balance in your life. So it's a really simple little process. Takes you through what to do, how to do it. And we've had a bunch of people now. I think we're about 50, 60 people that have gone through that program. Super simple. As and when more people join it, as and when more people go through it, if we find a demand to take it further, we absolutely will do. So you can find that just on my profile on whatever platform you're watching right now. Now, in terms of questions, comments, observations, I see we just have the one at the moment from Andy. Hi, Andy. You have asked that question before, I think. I remember you. Andy from Facebook there. Is there a way, or is there a legal argument that stops the border force turning the illegal migrant boats around our 12-mile maritime border? I think this has been argued back and forth, hasn't it? I know about a year or two ago, actually possibly just probably 2 years ago, before Labour got in, I know that Reform were claiming that legally you could just take them straight back to the last safe country, which would be France. And I think that was the argument they were putting forward. I think it's been pointed out, probably quite reasonably, that if we were to start towing people back to our nearest, very long-term partner now, in terms of countries and who's local, that's likely to cause all sorts of problems. And that, I suspect, is why we agreed, why the agreement was made for us to be paying them large amounts of money to police the shores. As we know, that's not really been anything of any success whatsoever. So quite how that's been maintained, I don't know. But is it, again, when we say turn them back, well, that goes back to I think the current position of Reform is they say they will put the Navy out there and just turn boats around. I don't know if this is a political thing. I don't know if it's a legal thing, but it seems that it has defeated governments of both sides of the chamber now for the 5 years or so it's been going on. Right, folks, thank you for that, Andy. Lovely to see you all this evening. A cold, windy Sunday